Hey guys, welcome back. This is Phil from underKG.com. Today we're going to take a look at Samsung Galaxy Note 8, the flagship of Samsung right now. Let's start with the hardware design. It's got the IP68 water and dust resistance, but since there are already phones with the mil-spec certifications like the LG V30, this doesn't come as too much of a surprise. The front facade, however, is definitely stunning. It's got the infinity display, it's got the bezel-less design, and this is what immersive display means. Considering the larger display size, the grip is surprisingly nice and it doesn't feel too big thanks to the rounded corners like the Edge display. However, I'm not too sure about the rear. I've already seen plenty of memes related to that window-looking rear panel, and the dual camera isn't exactly the best design material. The more serious problem might be the colors of it. And contrary to the Galaxy S7, S7 Edge, or the S8s, the colors aren't exactly too impressive. The blue and orchid gray could have looked better than this. I'm not really sure why Samsung got rid of that reflective panel coating on it, but they did. And now the colors are more dull and not as, say, alluring as it used to be. By the way, the phone itself is pretty heavy at 195 grams. Its weight balance is actually pretty good, so whichever way that you're holding your phone is definitely on the stable side of the weight balances. But if you're lying on your bed watching some YouTube clips and drop it on your face, then it certainly is going to hurt. And also, I'm not too sure about the fingerprint reader position as well. It being located on the back is totally fine. I got used to it. But it being not on the center kind of annoys me a little bit. I usually use my phone with my left hand, so this is totally fine. This is not as annoying. But if you usually use your right one, then it might be too much of a trouble for your finger to reach that fingerprint reader. And also, the fingerprint reader performance isn't the best either. Probably that's why Samsung has added the face recognition or the iris scanner, but they require one more action. You have to reach your face down to the phone so it can actually see you. Or in the case of iris scanner, you have to raise up the phone so it can see your irises. I'm not a big fan of this right now, at least in this way of technology. The display, however, is terrific. I've already said enough about the infinity display, infinity bezel-less display, but the display quality also is stunning. The color reproduction is actually pretty nice as long as you adjust the screen color a little bit. I don't know why, but the screen is a bit greenish on my device. So I had to reduce or kill the green tint on my display all the way down to almost zero. And this certainly isn't something you expect from a phone that costs almost $1,000. And also, four corners are rounded, yet less rounded than the S8 or the S8 Pluses, making the front panel more full of a display. Now, before the announcement of the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and the iPhone 10, I was going to say that this is an excellent processor. It actually still is. The Exynos 8895 or the Snapdragon 835 is still a great processor in the Android world. But with Apple A11 Bionic chipset crushing all the other chipsets around, I really can't say that for this chipset right now. But it still is, however, sufficient and very well built for what it requires. This still is a great chipset. What that chipset runs is the entire suite of Samsung software. It's called the Samsung Experience version 8.5 on top of Android 7.1.1 Nougat. And it's not exactly the best Android experience, especially when you swipe from the app drawer. It sometimes lags or stutters around when I do this action. But aside from that, they have added a lot of neat little features, like the dual messenger over here that duplicates the apps that originally doesn't support more than one account by the app. And whether you're watching the full screen video or playing video games, you can just hard press on that home button to get back to the home. You may also use your fingerprint reader to swipe the notification bar down and bring it back up. And the Edge panel is more useful than ever. You can pair up two apps to launch them right away with the split multitasking view. You can just tap that and two apps are launched without you having to split the app manually. And there's a quick tools, my favorite. You can use it as a ruler, compass, and the flashlight if you want to. And then there's Smart Select that you can make a GIF animation out of your selection, which also can be done by the S Pen, but still is also present in the Edge panel. All your favorite features like the Samsung Pay, Samsung Cloud, and Samsung Pass is also included, and less of my favorite feature, Bixby, built into that button. Now the good news is that Samsung recently released an update that lets you disable the short press of the Bixby button. Of course, the long press is still going to bring out the Bixby voice recognition, but it's one more customization option. By the way, Samsung has developed this nice font called the Samsung One. that has a unified look in any of the scripts. And Samsung doesn't have this included as a default phone. I don't know why, but you can always download them from Galaxy apps. So if you want to do that, please give that a try. And now the S Pen. Here it is, the mighty S Pen that might be the reason why you get the Galaxy Note. The pen itself is IP68 water and dust resistant, just like the phone itself, and it is capable of 4096 level of the pressure sensitivity. You can click the button to pull it out of the device, and when the screen is turned off, you can write directly on the device. You can say underKG, and then you can just pin it on the always on display, so you don't have to forget about the grocery that you have to get on your way home. When you want to edit it, you can just double tap on the screen to go ahead, and when you're done with it, you can just double tap on that trash can to remove that out of your screen. The most basic feature is to create notes. You can start writing, select with a lasso, convert it to text, the basic writing features that you have already been doing for a long time. You can use Smart Select to select the image out of the device. You can extract text out of it, pin it to screen, and also draw on top of it. The feature that Samsung was the most proud of was the live message. It's just like the iMessage. You can just draw on it and you can send it. Just give it a few seconds and it's gonna turn it into a GIF image, so you don't have to be an iMessage user like the iOS. You can send it in the animated manner to any of the phone through the MMS or your favorite messenger like Telegram or WhatsApp. But one of my favorite features is the translator. The Galaxy Note 7 and the FE also had the translator, but that didn't work on all of the languages, especially from the source language like Japanese and Chinese. But now this supports sentence-based translation, so Japanese and Chinese also work. And then this is not a text-only feature. You can use it on top of a photo. Just point your pen tip on top of a photo or an image that contains text, and it's going to recognize that. Out of all the S Pen features, this is definitely my favorite one. The coloring book feature is also a new one, so you can load up of the coloring book templates and you can color them to your artistic likings. And the interesting part here to a non-artistic person like me is that these are not in a vector format. This is a bitmap image. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. Now, when I explain all these new features of the S Pen, people usually respond that it's a gimmicky feature that you're going to forget in a week or two. And then there is another group of people at the other end of the spectrum that says it's an essential part of their lives. I'm somewhere in the middle. I usually tend to forget that it exists, but when I have to write something down, when I have to draw a little map to my friend, I find it incredibly useful, like once or twice in a month. So it's going to depend on each and one of you how useful the S Pen is to you. But one solid thing is that all the features that you need is already here. You just have to use it. It's almost perfect as a pen on a phone. Now, perhaps the feature that you're interested in most is the camera. This is the Galaxy's first dual camera ever, and it's got the dual OIS in both of the lenses. That means the wide-angle lens and the telephoto lens also are stabilized optically. The photo quality itself is as good as any other recent Galaxy devices. They're really good, and they added the telephoto lens to allow zooming in. And then there is the live focus. It's just like the portrait mode on the competing devices. You can change the depth of field right there with the bar right here. However, it doesn't give the most dramatic output. And the edge processing isn't the best. This certainly does not distinguish between the distances and the edges of the things like the animal's fur or the edges of the longer hair. And the worst part is that it often declines to take a depth of field photo. When it thinks that the scene is too complex to distinguish between the object and the background scenery, it simply says live focus not applied due to shooting conditions. You don't know what shooting condition it means, it's just declines to do so. The better part, however, is the feature called the dual capture. It captures the live focus photo, the wide angle photo at the same time. So usually at least one out of these photos taken turn out to be great. And despite all the disappointments that I had towards the live focus feature, the photos themselves, when it works, are definitely great. Now that was all about the rear camera. The front-facing camera is equipped with autofocus, and it takes great photos, especially the portrait photo. The one minor downside is that the HDR processing isn't exactly the best, so the highlights sometimes get overexposed. That's one minor complaint over here. Just like the Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus, there's a sticker pack, so you can just snap them right onto your face, just like you could do on Snapchat. And there are numbers of ways that you can shoot the photo. There is a shutter button, and there's a floating shutter button, and then you can use the heart rate monitor right there on the back that reside between the fingerprint reader and the camera. It's a bit questionable why they chose the heart rate monitor instead of the fingerprint reader. That is far outside, so you don't have to smudge your camera, but that was Samsung's choice, oddly enough. Now that we talked enough about the camera, next stop is the audio. It still does not have the dual stereo speaker. It only has a mono speaker on the bottom, which is not exactly my favorite place because it's so easily blocked when you're trying to watch a video holding your phone like this. And also the speaker quality still isn't that good. The Galaxy speaker hasn't exactly been the best. Thankfully enough, it still has the 3.5mm headphone jack on the bottom, and then there is a global sound equalizer. So this equalizer and sound effect work across any of the apps within the phone. It also has dual audio feature that allows two Bluetooth devices at the same time, and then there's a separate app sound so you can make your, say, music come out from your phone speaker and your game through your Bluetooth headphone. What got me worried using all these nice little features was the battery capacity. It has 3300 mAh of battery, which is even less than the Galaxy S8 Plus is. And thankfully enough, this managed to give me about 6 hours of screen on time, which is tad less than the Galaxy S8 Plus, but still enough to run for the whole day. I use the LTE network all the time, no Wi-Fi at all, and I tend to surf the web a lot, which drains massive amount of battery. And even with that, the Galaxy Note 8's battery is definitely enough to make it last through the day. Charging through the USB Type-C port on the bottom takes about an hour and 40 minutes, which is not long at all, and the fast charging feature lets you top up the battery for about 50% with only like 20-30 minutes of time. But the fast wireless charging is definitely slower than ever. Samsung limited the output of the wireless charging through the Android Nougat update for the Galaxy S7, and it still is slow on the Galaxy Note 8 as well. Oh, by the way, if you're trying to save up the battery by lowering your resolution, don't bother. It really doesn't save it that much of the battery time. Now, I think that was enough to tell about the Galaxy Note 8, so now I'm going to give it a verdict. The Galaxy Note 8 is definitely an amazing phone. It's surprisingly well built, it's a solid performer, the battery life is great, the camera isn't perfect, but it's one of the best cameras you can ever expect from a smartphone. I've seen a lot of people teasing it as the Galaxy S8 Plus with the S Pen and the dual camera added, but that is the way that the Galaxy Note series has ever been. The reason that people say that more so than before is probably the way it looks. There is a minimal amount of distinguishment that you can get from the Galaxy S8 Plus. It's a great phone, it's incredibly well built, it's one of the best phones that you can get on the market right now, but its price is a problem. In a lot of reasons, it's actually more than $1,000. So when there's a great alternative like the Galaxy S8 Plus, and if you're a hardcore Note fan, the Galaxy Note Fan Edition, then can you justify getting a Galaxy Note 8 with that price? I'm not really sure. The Galaxy S8 Plus is definitely more than enough. And it's cheaper with the sticker price, and it's now even cheaper now that it's been months since its launch. So that is the final verdict. I love this phone. This is incredibly well built, solid performer, and I would love to use it as my daily driver. But am I willing to pay that much with my personal expenses? I'm not too sure. Again, there are just way too great alternatives at way cheaper prices. The price point is the biggest problem of the Galaxy Note 8. The phone itself is amazing. It's insanely great. There are some things that I want to change, like the fingerprint reader position and the live focus quality, but this is one of the best smartphones that you can get in the market right now, period. Thank you always for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. You can always meet us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And we'll see you guys later. Ciao.